It's Reggae Month, and we'll be ensuring that you are in step with all the activities planned for the next 26 days. Hello and welcome to another edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. This year's Reggae Month celebration is being observed under the theme, "The Journey is the Destination." So be sure to check JareaJamaica.com for a schedule of events. Today's Reggae Month schedule has Drum Night at 20 Burlington Avenue and Uptown Mondays at Savannah Plaza. Go out, have fun, and immerse yourselves in our culture. On the pages of the magazine, we look at Jamaica's contribution to music, plus the latest stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister. The show unfolds now with a word of advice, followed by the news. Stay with us.
Got to take it slow, so take it easy.
Nutritious food, succulent dishes, superior workmanship, and excellent service. Jamaica is on the go. Let's grow what we eat and eat what we grow. Let's harness the indomitable spirit of our most valued resource, our people. Let's support our local businesses. After all, buying Jamaican means building Jamaica.
Original.
Good day, I'm Tamara McHale and this is your GIS News for Monday, February 2. The Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission, JADCO, is close to introducing blood testing as part of its interventions to ensure the integrity of Jamaican sport. Currently, JADCO only uses urine samples to test athletes for banned substances. But Executive Director Carey Brown told a recent GIS think tank that the Commission expects to begin blood testing by March 31. In anticipation of that, blood collection officers were among several sample collection officers trained in November last year, with funding from the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO.
We are in the process of tying up contracting of the blood collection, contracts with the blood collection officers, because we're using phlebotomy companies so that we will be able to start blood collection as part of our program.
He says once the field work is done, JADCO expects to have 17 doping control officers and 50 chaperones certified. In the meantime, the minister responsible for sport, Natalie Nita Headley, is asserting that collective responsibility is necessary for Jamaica to maintain a dope-free sporting environment. The minister was addressing a symposium put on by JADCO last Thursday. She said athletes, their parents, friends and support staff all needed to be educated to ensure that the island complies with the revised World Anti-Doping Code, which came into effect on January 1, 2015.
If you don't know, you will claim that you're ignorant about it. And ignorance does not prevent you from being sanctioned. So you must know.
In the next 4 to 5 months, a new running track will be ready for use at the G.C. Foster College of Physical Education and Sport. The Sports Development Foundation recently signed a $170 million contract with the German firm BSW Regipol to build an 8-lane IAAF Level 2 surface.
This new running track here at G.C. Foster College represents the government's ongoing commitment to sports development in our country and the improvement of Jamaica's sporting infrastructure, one at a time.
The previous running track, laid in 1998, was declared unfit by the J3As in 2013. In other news, government is tackling the challenges of rural-urban migration with the help of the United Nations. Phase 2 of the UN Habitat's Participatory Slum Upgrading Program, PSUP2, is now underway. Chief Technical Director responsible for housing, Doreen Prendergast, says the program has 3 phases, and this one is focused on getting community members involved in the upgrading of their communities.
Essential to the sustainability is ensuring that the persons on the ground are involved in every aspect of the program. So the community persons, they are the ones who identify the challenges that they face. They are the ones who determine what action they want to take, and they are the ones who help to design and shape the projects that will emanate from the whole process.
Ms. Prendergast was speaking at a recent GIS think tank. The second leg of the project is being implemented in 3 towns, Old Harbour Bay, Montego Bay and Maypen, which have seen increases in squatter settlements due to a rise in population size. The program will run until September. And finally, the Ministry of Health will be embarking on a series of health campaign events and distributing its food-based dietary guidelines to encourage the population to eat healthy during Heart Month and beyond. February is being observed as Heart Month under the theme, Sugar, Are You Too Sweet? Healthy Eating for a Healthy Heart.
Heart Month is looking at strategies for the reduction in the amount of salt, saturated fat, and sugars in processed food, the elimination of industrially produced trans fats in foods, and the issue of labeling to provide information such as calorific values, portion size, and nutritional values in order to allow consumers to make informed choices.
The health minister says the ministry's food-based dietary guidelines is close to completion and a public education campaign will be rolled out to promote portion size. A manual on physical activity will also be launched. And that's it for GIS News today. I'm Tamara McHale. Thank you for watching.
Jamaica, have to protect the life where we live, so you know, say we have to think smart. Joe! Well, this is Chino, and we need to talk to the youth them. Be careful, your friend them. People who really care about you and check for you, not gonna put you in a situation where you can end up going to prison or end up losing your life. So you need to stay focused, stay in school, work hard and don't fall on a friend. And remember, a gang is a dead end.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
The ministers in the office of the Prime Minister were on the go all week, from leading Jamaica's delegation to the Caribbean Energy Security Summit to signing off on the installation of a new running track at the GC Foster College. The ministers were fully engaged in carrying out the nation's business. Watch highlights right now.
$90 million boost to Jamaica's energy sector, productive CELAC summit, and $170 million running track for GC Foster College. I'm Simone Wolf with Jamaica House Weekly. Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller is back on the island after successful and productive engagements overseas. Between January 25 and 27, Mrs. Simpson Miller led Jamaica's delegation to the Caribbean Energy Summit held in the U.S. capital of Washington, D.C. U.S. Vice President Joe Biden addressed the summit and announced that the United States Overseas Private Investment Corporation, OPIC, would be investing $90 million to develop clean energy projects in Jamaica. It's part of a $700 million investment in clean energy projects across the Caribbean. OPIC has already released the first tranche of $43 million to finance Blue Mountain Renewables' implementation of a 34-megawatt wind project at Monroe in St. Elizabeth. Prime Minister Portia Simpson Miller welcomed the move, saying it would assist Jamaica's ongoing response to its serious energy challenges.
The startup and conversion of more efficient, less expensive energy production plants to boost growth potential and jobs is high on our national agenda. We urged the U.S. government and private energy sector to grasp the opportunities that abound in the Latin American and Caribbean region at this time in relation to regional energy security.
Mrs. Simpson Miller also used her time on Capitol Hill to meet with members of the Congressional Black Caucus, as well as other members of Congress, the IMF, and State Department representatives. She told the gathering that Jamaica would be pressing the international community for more strident action against trafficking in children. Mrs. Simpson Miller said the global scourge would replace the island's long-standing call at the United Nations for the lifting of the U.S. trade embargo against Cuba. This as the two countries took steps in December to normalize relations.
We're of the view that this courageous step will ultimately contribute to peace, stability, and prosperity in the Caribbean region, in the USA and beyond, particularly when the unilateral embargo against Cuba is finally lifted.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister thanked the Congressional Black Caucus for their unwavering support in helping Jamaica secure an IMF deal and encouraged them to champion more U.S. investment on the island. On Wednesday, Mrs. Simpson Miller left the U.S. for Costa Rica, where she attended the third summit of heads of government of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, CELAC. The two-day summit was focused on the fight against poverty, and Mrs. Simpson Miller commended the CELAC action plan to fight poverty, hunger, and ensure food security. She told the 33-member grouping that success would require cooperation and asserted that poverty alleviation could be achieved through expanded trade and production, investment, and job creation. Back on the island, Minister responsible for sport, Natalie Nita Headley, made some strategic moves this past week. On Wednesday, she witnessed the signing of a $170 million contract to install a new running track at the GC Foster College of Physical Education and Sport. The track, which is expected to be completed in 5 months' time, is being built by German firm BSW Regipol with funding from the Sports Development Foundation. Mrs. Nita Headley used the signing to encourage students at the institution to maximize the opportunities which will open up to them once the running track is completed.
Understand that this is an opportunity for you, not just to attend school here and to do well when the games are on, but their career advancements out of this track. Let me see more rich people. Because we're getting rich from track and field.
On Thursday, Minister Nita Headley joined a public forum on the revised World Anti-Doping Rules and Codes, as well as government's testing and results management program. She told sporting stakeholders that maintaining Jamaica's dominance in the sporting arena was everybody's business.
Your roles are critical to maintaining our dominance in sport across the world. This little country of under 3 million must continue to do well, but must continue to do well without any perception that there might be any foul play.
The January 1 implementation of the World Anti-Doping Code will see longer bans for athletes caught cheating and sanctions for support staff who aid in breaching the anti-doping code. And government, through the minister responsible for information, Senator Sandra Faulkner, last week extended congratulations to Casey Fennell, Jamaica's representative to the 2015 Miss Universe pageant. In a statement, Minister Faulkner said Fennell's performance represented what was good about Jamaica and embodied our hopes for the future of our youth. She added that Fennell's 5th place finish in the competition had earned her a platform from which to help change the world. The January 25 competition, held in Doral, Florida, went to Miss Columbia. And that's it for this week's Jamaica House Weekly. Join us next time for the latest stories coming out of the office of the Prime Minister.
Chikungunya is a viral infection transmitted when an Aedes aegypti mosquito bites an infected person and then bites someone else. Symptoms include high fever, headache, joint pain, muscle pain, and rash. If you suspect that you've been infected, take paracetamol such as Panadol, Cetamol, and Tylenol. Infants, children under 5 years old, pregnant women, the elderly, persons with sickle cell, and chronic illnesses such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease are at risk for more severe symptoms and must see a doctor for proper evaluation and monitoring. Fortunately, most cases of CHIKV are mild, but if your symptoms worsen, you need to see a doctor. For more info, call 1-888-1-LOVE from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. That number again, 1-888-663-5683.
One of Jamaica's many contributions to the world is its pulsating music. From mento to ska, reggae and dancehall, we've been making the world dance, reflect and embrace peace, love and unity. Take a look.
Relax, man, we'll soon get there. In fact, we are here, the Institute of Jamaica. This is where we're going.
What is this, Grandpa?
When you go in, you'll see. Come on, let's go.
Oh, here's a carry me someplace me no want go.
You say you want to be a musician? Well, you have to come here. Let me show you where the music is coming from. Step inside. See, this is where I want it to come. You see how far Jamaican music coming from, Kadim? These are Tainas, the first people, and see, they're playing drums and dancing. And look at these African instruments. That's when the first Africans came to Jamaica. Now, I bet you don't know what this instrument is.
Rumba box?
It is a rumba box, and you hear that in what kind of music now?
Mento.
Mento, that's what makes the mento music so sweet. Now, look at this. This is jazz music. Jamaica had a rich tradition of jazz. Coming right out of Alpha Boys School, you see it? Right after jazz, the same jazz musicians were playing R&B.
I found my thrill.
That came from America. And when the R&B dried up from America, then they started making Jamaican R&B. Jamaican turned the R&B around and made their own Jamaican style of R&B music, which then led to ska.
It was the beginning of independence. Ska was looked upon as the new sound of Jamaica. We find in our own identity, not following the American R&B or the ballad or the middle of the road kind of music that was coming from North America and Europe. And so it was very nationalist in its outlook and output.
Gather together, be brothers and sisters, we're independent. Join hands to hands, children started to dance, we're independent. Oh, be said and do. The Lord is still with you. God bless, no one curse. Thank God I'm not the worst.
Seems like the music always speak about social issues.
A lot of the music is about social issues. After all, life is music and music is life. After ska, you got Rocksteady.
Rocksteady, the rhythm, the ska still continue, but the bass rock. And the guitar and the piano, ska same way. But the bass, the emphasis on the bass, so yeah, fall back on you.
Well, it look as if we can hear music here.
I like this, Grandpa.
This
nice.
is Rocksteady. No, you should have seen me and your grandmother in those days. Rocking steady.
Yeah, Grandpa.
Yes. That's Alton Ellis, you know. Yeah. Great Rocksteady singer. Let me turn down the people things here. Next thing, then throw us out of here. And go back to watch this thing.
But Grandpa, you've been talking about Jamaican music for how long now? And until now, I haven't heard anything about reggae.
Well, we're coming right up to reggae now. Here we are, reggae. Well, first of all, many people say that reggae was born at Sir Coxson's Studio 1 on Brentford Road.
Clement Dad brought a piece of machinery to the studio for about a year. It was sitting there. And no one knew exactly what to do with it. And so they hooked it up one day and decided to implement it. And they discovered it was a tape delay. And so they hooked it into the machine and they started doing it into the recording. So when they put the guitar sound through the tape delay, it comes back saying, the rest of studios hearing this recording out, they thought it was the guitar making that and just copied that, and that was the birth of reggae music.
I want to do the reggae, girl, with you. Yeah, come on to me.
Here are some of the great artists who came out of that. Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Bonnie Livingston, the Wailers, Burning Spear, and so on. Now, reggae was also a way of life. It was the greatest advertisement for Rastafari.
I think it's my time to teach you a little bit.
What can you teach me?
Come right here, sir.
Oh, dancehall. I know that's when you were going to get happier.
It was also a little bit different in the 80s where you have more artists that come and you have to compete with artists like every day, and the dancehall vibes. When you go into the dancehall, you know, you have to just hold the mic, forget a bus. And now it's different. You just have a CD, go to the radio station and get some airplay.
The 90s had these persons like Beenie Man, Lady Saw, and Bounty Killer. Up to today, Beenie Man and Bounty Killer still have swag.
Right now, we have producers that are artists that are producers, and radio jocks who are doing both. With technology, the music is now diverse.
We are accepting music on a broader scale. One time gone till you want to hear hip-hop music or techno music being played in a dancehall setting. And that is happening right now. A lot of pop music is being accepted. Disco music, techno music, electro house music is being accepted right now. Hip-hop music is widely accepted right now. So we as Jamaican, we are listening to a wide cross-section of music.
That means that we took music and turned it into Jamaican music, and we have given it back to the world, and everything has now come together. Kadeem, the tour done. See, it wasn't that bad after all.
For real, Grandpa. Really inspired by all of this. Well, out of many, we're really one music.
And you might yet become a good musician.
Thanks, Grandpa.
Yes.
We're shifting gears now to focus on work being done to fight against corruption. In this next feature, we hear from the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency, MOCA.
I understand that concerns about corruption among public officials, and particularly within the JCF, has deep implications for our ability to engender trust and maintain respect for our systems of governance. I give you my personal commitment that under my watch, the JCF will act decisively to remove any member who has chosen the path of corruption.
And with that promise, the newly appointed police commissioner reinforced the government's commitment to weed out rogue cops and go after other corrupt officials. The commissioner's pledge comes weeks after the formation of the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency, MOCA. The agency has 4 main mandates: dismantle major organized criminal networks, go after the facilitators of crime, stamp out public corruption, which includes police corruption, and put an end to financial economic crimes.
From the anti-corruption initiative, focused mainly on
police corruption and civilians who assist in police corruption by offering bribes to the police. We have also had some 27 civilians arrested for police corruption and 31 police officers, and this is since January. And these are cases, the majority of these cases are now before the courts.
MOCA has also been having major success in crippling illegal quick cash schemes through its lottery scam task force. Since April, the task force has carried out 150 operations and arrested and charged 196 persons. Some 600 persons have been arrested for breaches of the Lottery Scam Act since the law became effective in 2013.
All I can promise is that we are going to be committed, we are going to be focused at the task at hand, we are going to be going at the individuals who are involved in these nefarious activities without fear or favor, and no one is above the law.
The MOCA boss is also serious about public support and the need for greater intelligence to nab the culprits.
So at every opportunity, we intend to engage the communities. And we're going to start as well with the children and try to engender and develop an anti-corruption culture from the youngest ages in our society.
Welcome to the FSC Minute. I am Nadine Newsom. Today we discuss the importance of retirement planning, and joining me is Nicolette Hennes, Senior Director of Pensions with the FSC. Welcome to the FSC Minute, Mrs. Hennes.
Thanks, Nadine.
Mrs. Hennes, why is the FSC concerned about the low pension coverage in Jamaica?
Well, Nadine, as at March 31st, 2014, 8.9% of the employed labor force contributed to a private pension fund. Another 5 to 6% receive a pension from the government. These statistics imply that as many as 85% of the labor force have not made formal arrangements for retirement. Reliance, therefore, has to be placed on intermittent sources of revenue, such as remittances from abroad or savings that have accumulated over that person's lifetime. This makes the senior years extremely challenging and a time for marginal existence for many people.
What can persons do to plan for their retirement?
Well, I would advise that everybody should start saving for our retirement from the moment that they start working. Many employers have in place a facility or a pension arrangement for their employees so that persons can save for retirement. For those persons who do not have such an arrangement in place, the FSC strongly suggests that they save for retirement through an approved retirement scheme.
Thank you, Mrs. Hennes. My guest today was Nicolette Hennes, Senior Director of Pensions with the FSC. For the FSC Minute, I am Nadine Newsom.
And that's our show. We're here to serve you, so we've developed a new app for you to download and get all the positive news coming out of Jamaica land we love. Just go to Google Play Store and type Jamaica Information Service. We're also on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter. But if you're not familiar with those social media platforms, be sure to visit our website, jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Walk good.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.